searching for some sunshine. Just need one ray through the dark skies. I gotta look for the bright side. I know we're gonna be alright. I know we're gonna be alright. Just make it through another day. As these dark clouds will go away. I'm holding on to my face. I know we're gonna be okay. Yeah, we're gonna be okay.
Okay. Start off with a little story.
Yeah, thin week of discussion, that's for sure.
What's up, guys? How y'all doing today? So, Sean, how you doing?
You know, man, I'm here. Some days that's enough, right? That's what I'm told.
Yep. Welcome to Generation Orange. We're trying to do this show weekly as much as possible. I know, both of us have a lot of things going on. I know last week, Sean, I told you that, hey, I was going on vacation for 2 weeks, but guess what? I had to work today.
Not really surprised, I'm gonna be honest.
Some things came up, but I will be heading on vacation from here on out, starting from today. Now, I just got back from work not like a couple hours ago, so it wasn't part of the plan, but here we are. How about yourself, Sean? You're all good? You're all good over there?
Yeah, man, always good, always good. Can't complain. And we actually have some Dynamo rumors to talk about this week. It feels like it's been quite a while since we've actually had any of those to talk about. So
I know, man. It's a little astonishing. I'll wake up today and I see some little rumor birds out there in Twitterverse talking about current player, and then earlier
referred to as rumor foxes at this point.
Rumor foxes, yeah.
Rumor birds is not really giving them credit, but that's all good. Yeah, I mean it's really weird seeing at this point in time Dynamo rumors in general, knowing that there are we've made so many, I'm gonna air quote, so many moves at this point with all the all the academy signings that we've had so far this offseason, homegrown signings, if you will, and then the move to bring in Ian Hoffman, which I really do feel like may very well be one of the more underrated moves that the Dynamo have made. And then, these two rumors that have popped up, which we will talk about a little bit later. But You know, I watched the some of the final match of MLS's back last night, and you know, neither of those teams to me looked unbeatable. And I feel like that's important for, I think, for all of us to remember as Dynamo fans. You know, we can get frustrated at the lack of spending, or you know, the perceived lack of talent in our Dynamo pool, or you know, the lack of production from Dynamo Academy players to date. What, you know, whatever you want to hang your hat on, that is this, you know, particular current struggle with the Dynamo. But you know, we have to look at MLS as a whole as well. And you know, none of these clubs are unbeatable. You know, LAFC proved it. Second year in a row they've been knocked out in you know, in a playoff format or tournament format. You know, NYCFC, pretty darn good team, knocked out in playoff format. You know, Seattle went down. Gosh, I mean, you know, the number of teams that dropped that are perennial, you know, favorites year in and year out because they spend all that money. I mean, Atlanta United, shall we even begin talking about them? But you know, I look at the landscape of MLS, and I see that there's plenty of room for a team to seize an opportunity. And you know, with Atlanta struggling, and Seattle, you know, clearly not the same team they were, you know, a year or two ago. Toronto, clearly not the same team they were a year or two ago. You know, there's room for teams to begin to make moves to kind of find their way into that mix. And I feel like with the makeup of the Dynamo squad as current, we should be competitive, and I do think we're competitive. But you know, I look at it, and we're definitely missing that one piece. Bye, Mark. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the Sean Power Hour. Apparently, Mark has decided he doesn't want to be part of the show anymore. Apparently, that's amazing. I'm sure he'll reconnect his camera here in a second when he realizes what he did. But you know, I just it's frustrating for me, because it's like there's this opportunity the Dynamo could definitely seize on, and there's no doubt that if they did it now, you know, if they made a big, I wouldn't even say a big move, if they made a reasonable size move at this point, I feel like there's a ton of support that does sit out there in the Dynamo, you know, kind of wasteland of you know, soccer support here in the city. But you know, the lack of movement from the Dynamo is something that I think we've all become accustomed to, and I think there is some extent that we should be accustomed to it. We should, you know, acknowledge that that's kind of the state of affairs because of our ownership, and you know, we can be upset about that, and don't get me wrong, I am 100% upset at the state of affairs. But on the flip side, I do see hope on the horizon. You know, we had the show last week, and I was a little bit harsh to certain individuals. Oh, look, Mark's reconnecting. Thanks for rejoining, man. Glad you decided to join the show. I thought you were just like, I'm done. I was like, wow.
No, no. You know, unfortunately, like you said, work never stops, even though you're trying to go on vacation. One last little call.
It never fails, man. I've been there, done that. Trust me, I know. But you know, it's one of those situations where I see there's opportunity. I know that the Dynamo have the capability to, you know, from a personnel standpoint, to seize the opportunity, but from an ownership standpoint, and I think that I have to keep coming back to that, because you know, as much as I've wanted to be a proponent for this ownership group, I think there's been this struggle on, you know, even internally for me, of is this enough? And you know, Glenn Davis talks about, you know, the media and fans and stuff keeping the club accountable, and I really don't feel like we're not keeping the club accountable. I think where the struggle is that we put so much emphasis on how well the general manager does, how well Matt Jordan does, how well Tab does, how well Wilmer did, how well Owen Coyle did, you know, how well Dom Kinnear did, that we tend to lose focus, or even, you know, John Walker and Deanna Witter and Chris Canetti, and even those levels of positions. But I think we tend to put we take a lot of the emphasis off our ownership group. And, you know, I think Tab, with what he's got, he's trying to do the best job he can. I do think Matt Jordan is trying to do the best job he can. I know there's people out there that, you know, they continue to deride Matt Jordan for signing the players that he signed and how they haven't panned out in some, you know, one way or another, such as Alejandro Fuenmayor, who we talked about last week. in relation to the tab interview with Glenn Davis, that he's the fourth CB in the depth chart, and how unfortunate that is at this stage of his development and career. As long as he's been here, the few opportunities that he's been given, and he's never seized on those opportunities, or at least if he was given the opportunity, and he, in my opinion, he's never showed. He's always showed to be good enough to be given that starter role. But I feel like every coach that we've had, even going back to the Kinnear days, not that Kinnear had Fuenmayor, but just as an example, every coach we've ever had has favored that experience over youth at the center back position or at the defender position. And I can understand that from kind of a classic coaching perspective. But I think there is something to be said for having young, especially outside backs. Lundqvist is a great example. He's a young kid who I feel like he may not be the best defender, but when he goes forward offensively, what he provides is sufficient enough to cover for those lapses getting back. And I think he's gotten a lot better at defending in the last year. And that's credit to the caliber of player that he is and the coaching that he's receiving. And I think he still has plenty to give. But I do feel like, he's a perfect example. And then we look at the right side of the field, and we brought in Bisama, who's obviously been out injured and didn't even really get a chance to really gel into the lineup. He had 2 matches or 3 matches and then got injured, and then has been out ever since. But it's it's still, I think, our center back position. We can't be relying on a 37-year-old. I mean, we talked about it last week. At some point, you have to, and we're not just relying on a set 37-year-old. We've relied on a 35 and a half and 36 and a half, and now a 37-year-old. Yeah. We brought in Minor expecting 1 year out of him, and here we are basically a second year fully in, and still pushing him out there as our starter. And, I do think he's got a lot of talent to offer, and I think his distribution actually out of the back is really solid. And honestly, he hasn't really lost a whole lot in terms of his step. But I think the problem is you're now talking about going against the caliber of attackers in MLS that are far different than they were even 3 or 4 years ago. You're talking about a Diego Rossi. You're talking about a Carlos Vela. You're talking about a player like a Diego Valeri, who, yes, he's been here, but now he also has Brian Fernandez up top. You're talking about these other players that are just available that are attackers that have elevated that level of the game on that side of the ball. And I feel like we've focused on trying to improve our attack in certain areas, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that. If you would have looked back maybe 3 or even 4 years ago, right before Wilmer started, our attack was anemic at best. And I feel like we've mostly reversed that fortune. But then on the opposite side of it, we've opened up so many holes on defense, and we're not addressing those adequately, in my opinion. And the 2 players that are rumored are both attackers, and it still leaves me going, okay, you're still not addressing the one area of need. Now, maybe Ian Hoffman long-term can be that player to help fix some of that by being that player to pair with Matthias Vera, and that's fine and well, but how long do we have to wait for him to get there, to be that player at that position, to be ready to be that starter at that position? Boney is definitely not that guy. And no offense to Seren, but he's not that guy. And so that's all of that to say there's this huge opportunity, and I don't know what the Dynamo are working with right now, but at the end of 2020, we have a ton of excess, money to spend, because we have a bunch of players that are expiring contracts if we don't renew them all, which I don't think we will. And there's a very good possibility Elise may be off the books, and that's a pretty good chunk of change as well. Hopefully not for free. Still holding out hope, but he obviously, at this point, if he hasn't signed the contract and the Dynamo offered him the biggest contract in their history, then I don't feel like they're going to make enough progress between now and the end of the season for him to sign with us,
they're just a wagering chip. But you're speaking about Matt Jordan, man, and I'm not gonna sit back here and act like I didn't, I haven't taken jabs at the guy, on Twitter or anything like that. But I do give him his credit where credit is due, and he's found talent, for the lack of funds that he's given, and ultimately at the end of the day, he can only do what he can with what he has to work with. And obviously, who gives him the power to be able to invest into the players on the pitch is the owner, and obviously, I'm not going to go around in circles here to who to blame and all that crazy stuff, because obviously we see a bunch of that stuff on Dynamo Twitter, and all that stuff. But I do agree with what you're saying, with the fact of the matter that we've kind of turn our backs on the defense, because aside from Kiki obviously and Fem Mayor, we have signed those two guys, but the fact that we're here sitting today, August 12th, 2020, and we have a 37-year-old center back that was only supposed to be a gapper there for a year, it was an emergency signing last season, whatever, and now he's here second year starting and doesn't look to be losing the spot anytime soon. It is a bit concerning, because obviously the youth movement is coming for the Dynamo with all the recent signings and all the academy promotions to the first team and all that great stuff. But that being said, when are we going to give the opportunity to the defense? And I know, obviously, like you reverted to earlier, that coaches tend to rely on veteran presence for defense and MLS a lot heavily than they do for offense, because obviously all the top offensive players are fairly young, mid-20s, early 30s or whatever. But when you see defensive players, you have defensive players who are veterans all around the league. There you're talking about 32, 33, 34-year-olds out there. But with that being said, there's also has been numerous times by teams, and maybe one team in particular that I'm thinking off the top of my head is the New York Red Bulls, that they have gone with young defenders, and they've been able to progress their bringing their growth and make them more of a professional player, and give them those playing time minutes to where they can develop well and show their skill sets as defenders. And they've made money off of them as well. I mean, currently right now they have Aaron Long. They did the same thing with Tyler Adams, even though he might have played a more defensive mid, but he played the defensive as well. Other defenders out there as Zimmerman with Nashville, Matt Mazaga, who was with the New York Red Bulls, who got picked up by Chelsea a couple of years back. I mean, there is room for in the defensive side of the ball, and yeah, our wide backs are looking good right now, as far as the fact that we kind of, Matt did go sign Bizama from Chile, and then he did sign Lundqvist a couple of years back to cover our left back after Beasley retired, obviously. But our two main ones, I mean, obviously Kiki's still in his prime, I would suppose. I think he's 28, 29, so he's still good. But his partner, he needs to have somebody a little bit more youthful, a little bit more speed back there. And not to discredit, what Minor's done, because Minor has been good. There's no way around it. I mean, if he wasn't good, he wouldn't be starting, basically. And he's done really well for us for what we've asked of him. So I mean, just to go to say, I mean, obviously I know the rumors out there for a couple of attacking players, but I don't know if this is just the beginning of rumors with the Dynamo, or if there's going to be others, or if there's going to be maybe a defensive signing here or there that's for the short term, that's for the team right now, that can help the team right now. Because obviously I know we spoke about it last show that it's great that they're going with the youth, and they're signing players like Hoffman and Castillo and Danny Rios and all those guys. But what about the now? There's still a season to be played. And we're still, as fans and as the team, want to see some progress, and maybe be in the top half of the table in the Western Conference instead of being in the bottom half season. See some progression. It's still something that we have to hold the team accountable for. That even though we're in the midst of this youth movement, and we have a new coach, and there's all these other things, and we don't know what's going to go on, what's going to happen with Elise and blah blah blah, we still have to go into the season trying to do the best we can as a team, as a group, as a whole, and try to win as many games as possible, so we can have a stepping stone away for next season, or whenever these youth players come along, it's something. It's a platform for them to grow on, to have that start of a winning culture for around here, because we've lacked it for the last couple seasons.
The winning culture, the winning attitude, I feel like the resilient attitude that you're not going to beat us, we're going to beat you attitude. I feel like we've missed that for a few years. But to press upon your point even more, you look at the 1 year, maybe a year and a half even, that we had, success under, Owen Coyle / Wilmer. It really stemmed from having a single player who was without a doubt an on and off the pitch leader in Vicente Sanchez. And it wasn't just an experienced player. It wasn't just a player that, that was capable, or had shown he was capable previously. But it was a. Do I need to be closer to the mic?
No, he's vocal.
Oh, he's vocal. Yes, vocal. Absolutely. He was vocal. There were a couple articles written, a couple interviews where other players had said, they were kind of starting to slack off a little bit in practice. And here's a guy that's, 40 something years old at that point. I think he was only 38, 39, but the dude was coming in basically 40 years old, and the dude was beating people in practice, and making it very clear that if you're going to be in this practice and you're going to be on this team, we're going to do it right, and we're going to give that same effort in practice that we want to give on the in games. And I feel like if you look at some of the players that we have now, I know Memo's not that type of player. Memo's that type of player that's going to play no matter what the situation is. He's going to give you 110% regardless. But I do feel like we have some players that they tend to just go out there and they kind of go through the motions, and they know who they are. They know exactly who they are. But the problem is there's no team leader that is able to be that vocal guy that is out there showing that example that those players respect. And those players respected Vicente Sanchez. There's no doubt. Go ahead.
Just to go piggyback off what you're saying is it's one thing to have 11 talented players on the pitch, but if you don't have that one player that can bring them all together and stick them together and work as a unit, as a whole team, then it doesn't really matter, man. You kind of just, running around in circles at that point, on the pitch, because you can have great individual talent and you can make some great things happen, and excuse me, and you might win a game here and there for us. But the greater scheme of things, the season isn't just a game or two. The season's 34, 36 games, I think. And you need that presence there too, when you're not feeling like making that run after the ball, after you lost it, that somebody's on you, yelling at you, hey, get on that, go out there and, kind of coaching you on the field, a player coach, as for lack of a better term, on the pitch. Because, you're not going to hear under normal circumstances, you won't be able to hear your coach, because you got the crowd noise and everything going on around you. But you need that vocal leader. And unfortunately right now, from all the players, even the veteran players that we do have currently, none of them are vocal. Realistically, Boney is not a vocal leader. Mino is not really vocal. And then everybody else is kind of young. And then the guys who are a top talent, as far as at least in Mauro, at least is 1 foot out the door. And Mauro doesn't really seem that type to be, to kind of have the room and demand respect out of everybody, even though he's out there scoring goals. And Quintero, he's only been here a couple of months, so I mean, you can't really just expect him to come in and just whoosh. But even then, I've watched him play with Santos in a Club America, and he's not that type of player either. So he's not that vocal leader either. So, yeah, man. I mean, yeah, I'm happy to hear rumors out there, but sometimes, the type of player you're trying to bring in, and like I said, given the benefit of the doubt that this is just the beginning, and obviously the transfer window for them opens tomorrow. They'll have so to have something from the get go is great to hear as a team, as a fan. Hopefully this isn't the end of it, and they're addressing other parts as well, because it's not just about pure talent, about having leadership out there and somebody who can kind of grab everybody and just hone them in when they're trying to, especially in that 85th to 90th minute when they're up a goal, trying to win that game instead of ending up a tie or even a loss.
You know, a good example of what we're talking about is, there was a match towards the end of the restart, the EPL restart, and I'm sure you were well aware of it, Mark, where Spurs Hugo Lloris and Heung-min Son got into it right before halftime. And, it came about because Son was not tracking back and not covering defensively towards the end of the half. And if I'm not mistaken, Spurs were up in that match like 1-0 at that point. And, Hugo let him have it. He flat out let him have it. Like, and it was pretty heated, and it kind of spilled over to halftime. They dealt with it at halftime and moved on. But, Jose Mourinho came out and said, I applaud that, because we've talked about that. We need leaders on the pitch that are going to keep everybody accountable. And that's what we're missing, right? We're missing that guy on the pitch, or those 2 or 3 players on the pitch that keep everybody else and themselves accountable. And, that's not Boney. We've talked about that. That's not Boney. And he's viewed as a team captain. That's not Minor. He's viewed as a team captain. That I don't see that from Honduras at all. That there are no Honduran players out there that are built that way. They're just not. Not currently. Let me clarify. Not currently. And you've mentioned it. Maro's not that type of player either. And, Kiki, from what I've seen, he's not that type of player. And Adam Lundqvist is definitely not that type of player. Jose Bisama, definitely not that type of player. So that leaves you, very few players. Darwin Quintero, you even said, really not that type of player. Memo is not going to be that type of player, because he's more going to show you on the pitch, but he's not going to demand that level from you, because people don't view him in that way. And I don't think other players necessarily view him in the same light. So you have to have that player that comes out. You have to have, and I'm going to be very clear about this, you have to have your Rachel Daly. You have to have your Shea Groom. You have to have your Christy Mewis. Your players that they don't just lift themselves up. They lift the whole team up. They keep every player on that pitch accountable. They make sure that everybody knows what their jobs and their roles and responsibilities are. And if they're not performing up to that level, they're going to make sure they know I'm watching and I'm seeing that, and we're going to deal with it, and the Dynamo just don't have it. And, I struggle because we need that. We need that.
Yeah. And I have no doubt that the team, gels well together, all that great stuff. But sometimes you need that kick in the ass, from somebody, because it's just needed sometimes, man. It's all good, well and dandy. They can get together, go out afterwards, whatever, or do whatever, that teammates do, all that good stuff. At the end of the day, if, I don't care about how much y'all hang out off the field or off the pitch, or how well the team is gelling or this and that. What I care about is accountability and making sure that you're out there doing your job the way it's supposed to be done. And that we're getting the results that are needed to be gotten, because if MLS is back, tournament is any kind of a hint on what's going on, then it's not going to look good, because obviously 2 games that we let go that we should have won against the 2 LA clubs, at the end of the match, that's just discipline, man. That's discipline. And you can right that ship. There's so many games that could be had here on forth that could have been had last season, but the discipline isn't there, and it's not, and nobody's holding anybody accountable, and that's not a good thing. I don't care if obviously Albert Elise is the most talented player. If he's out there doing boneheaded things and letting his emotions get to him, somebody should be out there to be over there hurrying up. Go grab them and be like, hey, you need to calm down. We need you. We can't lose you. Don't, quit, whining or whatever, and just keep it moving. Run back. Let's go. That's it. But obviously, every time you see him lose his mind, there's nobody around him to cool him down. I don't see anybody around him.
I was going to ask you, who on the current roster, and I'm giving you the full 28, 29, 30 players that we have, who on this current roster is a player that you see that has it to be that accountability person for Elise specifically? There's not a single player on this roster that I think has the respect of Elise enough to go and say, Elise, you got to stop the mental case, man. You got to come down and bring it down to the real level. Like, you got to be you got to take it down a notch. You're being too much right now. You can't put your team and your teammates in this position just because you're frustrated that you're getting beat up on the sideline or whatever it is. Like, that's soccer. Welcome to playing soccer. And I'm going to say this very clearly. If nobody has said to him at this point in his career, if you can't hang with the physicality of MLS and the defenders, the way that they play in MLS, your ass is going to get smoked in EPL, in any European league. You're not going to handle it, dude. You're going to get absolutely just destroyed, and not only are you not going to make it over there, you're going to come back and be half the person you were when you left.
And that's just going back to the whole Vicente Sanchez season. Obviously, it's no coincidence that that's the season we went to the playoffs and made that deep run when we had him, because he held everybody accountable. Everybody respected him because of everything he's done on the pitch. Obviously he had a legacy with America and Toluca and all those guys in the Mexican league, and he went over to Europe for a couple seasons as well. So they had somebody to admire, So, and the thing about having a youthful team, sometimes you need that guidance from that one player, and maybe it's something that Matt Jordan and Tab Ramos need to go back to the drawing board and look at, man. Yeah, I know we're trying to go youthful and all this great stuff, but we need somebody to lead these guys like a leader of men, somebody to grab these guys by the necks and be like, hey, come on, let's go. You lost the ball here, let's go. Or yeah, you got beat, let's go. Just somebody who can be a coach on the pitch for these guys, because yeah, it's like I said, it's great to have the youth and have all this talent and all that great stuff, but 11 individual talented players don't win as many games as one cohesive group, so we'll see.
Completely agree. And I want to piggyback. I said we were going to talk about rumors, and I feel like we're not getting anywhere near these rumors at this point.
No, we're going to get there.
I know we will. But I was going to say, and actually, Jake, right before you hopped in, I mentioned that the type of player I'm referring to is your Rachel Daly, your Shea Groom, your Christy Mewis. Those players that they don't just lift themselves up; they lift everybody up and they keep everybody accountable. They don't let I guarantee you, Rachel Daly, if she sees that Haley Hansen is slacking off, she's gonna be right up in her grill like, girl, this is not allowed on the dash pitch anymore. No, we're elevating, we're not we're not decreasing. But what I was gonna say is do you feel, and this is a good question actually, and I'm throwing it to you, Mark, specifically, do you feel that Matt Jordan's weakness is finding leaders? And I asked that question with this caveat: the only leader that has been on this team under Matt Jordan that we could fit, that we all agree was a leader, was Vicente Sanchez. He was not the product of Matt Jordan. He was brought in by Wilmer. And if it wasn't for Wilmer, Matt Jordan would have had a big fat zero of in terms of lack of leadership, in terms of the players being brought in.
I mean, obviously Vicente came in because of his connection with Wilmer when they were together in Colorado. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know if it's one of those things where it's tough to say, man, because like, to get somebody who is an experienced leader, who the other players are going to respect, that costs money,
It's money.
And the unfortunate thing about Matt and the position that he's in is that I don't know if he's getting enough funding to go look for those kind of players. And if he is, it's one of those things where, well, do I spend on one player who can be that true leader to this current squad, or do I go and buy 3 or 4 youthful players that can be for the future? It's those decisions and forks in the road that come up as a GM, and I'm obviously thinking out loud here that come up in those boardroom meetings and with his team, that especially with the scouts, which route to go, because like you said earlier, this team isn't really that far away from competing. Portland, Orlando last night, it wasn't nothing amazing, nothing crazy. Like I said, we went toe to toe with LAFC, and yeah, granted they didn't have Vela, whatever, blah blah blah. But but we went toe to toe with those guys. We went toe to toe with Portland, the champions. Those guys were in our group. And if it weren't for a costly mistake in the penalty at the end of the game at the LA Galaxy, we would have made it to the knockout round. But going back to it, I mean, it's
Toe to toe with Portland, but
is it
we'll continue.
are we that one experienced true leader player away from really making some noise, or do we continue to ride the waves and go and keep going and sign youth and more youth?
Here's the thing, and this is what I'm looking at. If you take a step back and you look at the big picture and you don't worry so much about the current situation, right? We just brought in Ian Hoffman, another young player at a very key position. We've just signed 4 homegrown players. We've also got Memo on a homegrown contract. We have secured deals for our goalkeeper and for one of our starting center backs who is outstanding in Kiki Struno. We have a couple other other players in key positions that are signed for a couple more years. The players that are leaving, are currently expiring contracts. Most of them are depth players. I think 5 out of the 8 of them that are on expiring contracts are depth players, not even starters at this point. And on top of that, we're going to have some money. And I feel like if the Dynamo can get anything for Elise before he leaves, or they get a good offer for Morrow, I think that they are looking, by the way that they've brought in the youth players that they have at the positions that they have, they're looking at a consideration of trying to flip that script, finding that one team leader type of player, and then having a bunch of younger players built around them, and they're building in a specific way. My problem is that they haven't found that person yet, and they've built all of this up around that person, and they don't know who that person is yet. If you don't know who that person is and you've built all these players around them, you've brought in all this talent around them, then how are you going to be able to truly form that team around them unless they're a true 10 or something like that, where that position is one you can absolutely, it doesn't matter who else is around them, they can elevate that, that level of that game. But again, I think it's, I think there's a give and a take there, and I do think that the Dynamo have some space, some room at the end of the season to finally bring in that level of team leader while still bringing in more young players, because young players don't have to be expensive. The two rumors we've seen, I guarantee you they're well under $1 million in transfer fees. Hell, I think they're probably under $500,000 in transfer fees. And so, if that being the case as it is, then you're not spending that much this offseason on players if Elise is gone and if Morrow ends up leaving and you actually get something back for Morrow. So you have discretionary funds to spend. And so I guess this is where this offseason should be, I say should be where we see Matt Jordan's, true capability as a GM. Can he take a bit of money and actually find that leader, or is he going to bring in another piece that, I feel like Matt Jordan is playing that Daryl Morey game, bringing in a bunch of assets and trying to flip those assets, or I don't even know if he's trying to flip the assets at this point, but he's bringing in a bunch of assets, and he doesn't have that one player to bring in that's that kind of linking, connecting player that helps everything come into view and come into shape and clear up and make sense. And but I wanted to focus on that at the top of the show because I do agree with Glenn that I think there's a significant lack of pressure from media, and I'll count us as that as well. And that's not to say I'm going to go full on and say the Dynamo suck, the Dynamo suck. I don't believe the Dynamo suck. You and I have talked about this multiple times. We believe that there is a good amount of talent on this team, both in the younger stages and otherwise. And there's clearly plenty of talent within the pipeline and in the academy, which is great to see. So we're on an upswing, but there's some things that need to change. There's some things that need to be addressed. And I feel that criticism is one thing, but constructive criticism applied in the proper way with the proper amount of pressure can actually see results from the front office making better decisions. And I think that's the type of pressure that we need to be applying.
And before we move on to the next topic, I just want to throw it in there. I mean, it's being constructive. Your criticism towards the team is what the team really needs. I mean, it's obviously I know you see it on Twitter and all that stuff and the Reddit stuff, all that bashing the Dynamo and the ownership group and all this stuff. But it is what it is. Unless he sells, that's what it's going to be. I mean, and we can't just keep harping on that.
Yeah.
If we're true supporters of this team and we bleed orange and we're for orange and we're gonna hold it down and all that great stuff. I mean, the circumstances are the circumstances. The owner is the owner. Now like I said, I will give credit where credit is due, and Matt Jordan has done quite a bit with the little bit of funding that he's been given. He's brought in talented players, and he's filled holes that needed to be filled. Like I said, I don't think we're that far off from being a playoff team. I don't think we're that far off from being a contending team. And that's praise to Matt Jordan and his staff, for bringing in the talented players that we currently have. Because we do have a 15 to 20 goal scorer, in Mauro. We have a 10-10 guy in Albert Lees, 10 goals and 10 assists. Before Kyoto shit the bed, he was another one who was really talented and came in and was actually kind of better than at least from the get go, and other players as well, Kiki, Matias Vera, who is underrated, is very underrated in the league. I think Matias Vera is one of those players that we're gonna look at and we're gonna be like, man, if we can find 4 or 5 more of him, we'd be really, really doing well. But just like we said before, need that vocal voice in the locker room, on the pitch, that's gonna grab the guys by the necks, be like, let's keep it going, let's keep moving forward. Don't worry about what happened.
Somebody that's also going to be able to be that type of player that's going to say, forget the outside noise. Focus on us. Let's focus on what we do on the pitch. Don't worry about the outside noise. Don't worry about how good you are as an individual. Worry about how good this team is as a team. I do think Tab can instill some of that, and I think we'll see some of those youth players eventually become that. But to Pat and Callow's points, this fan base is not amenable to waiting that long. They're not going to wait 5 years for results at this point. they're not going to wait 1 year for results at this point, to be totally honest. But I think there's still a core of fan base out there that is willing to wait, as long as the Dynamo acknowledge that, yeah, we're gonna go full youth. We're gonna let these kids develop, and then once they've developed, we're going to let them show what they really can do. And we'll build around them, when we get to that point. But I think the real problem is they keep trying to trot out this idea of, playoffs every year, and it's just the build of the team right now is not sufficient enough to do it. But I wanna hit on something that they asked, actually, or said earlier in the show, talking about the Dynamo social media team. We've talked about this, that the Dynamo media team, even with the layoffs and what have you, the Dynamo and Dash media teams have been absolutely on point this year. The level of quality in terms of the hype that they have brought is absurd. There are teams out there in MLS right now that would hire those individuals from our media team in a heartbeat, to have that level of quality in terms of media, social media, and just the way that they've highlighted players and various things. It's gotten fans excited. When there wasn't a whole lot to really truly be excited about specifically, they found a way. And that speaks to the quality that they have. And I think that a lot of that falls to, and hopefully she's listening right now, but I think a lot of that falls to Deanna Witter and John Walker. They've done and we say it all the time, they've done a bang up job with this team and what they inherited from a business standpoint, and that's all good and well, but they do need those results to go along with it at some point. Those results come in, I guarantee you the work that they're putting in right now, it is going to be like butter. They are going to be, tickets are going to be sold out all the way around the entire stadium. We're going to have an Atlanta type atmosphere or a LAFC type atmosphere if the results can show up.
Yeah, obviously you got to help out from both ends. The off pitch, the marketing team and the front office, obviously they've done really well with all the marketing and all the activity that's on social media and even the promotions. Like that 713 stuff from last season, I know they were going to do it this season before the COVID thing. That was a great idea. That was a super great idea to kind of, include obviously the Houston zip area code and all that good stuff. And the giveaways and all that stuff, that's kind of standard stuff, but still, but the thing is that they're out there, they're talking to fans, they're out there showing that they want fans in the seats, and they are doing their hardest and darndest to let that they are hearing us, but obviously, from their standpoint, they're doing an A+ job. The social media outputs out there on Twitter and stuff like that. It's A plus. Deanna and John are great individuals who I've had the pleasure to meet, once, and they were really kind and really open to hearing us out and all that good stuff. And I expect the same level of respect, from them going on forward and everything in open book, for as much as they can, but obviously, like you said, they can only do so much, but then there needs to be a winning product on the field as well. So,
yep, agreed 100%. We've
rumors.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's transfer time, baby. So the first rumor that cropped up on social media and other places was it's a little bit less. It's not going to excite anybody just listening or just hearing about it, but a player that played for Timbers 2 for a season and has played in Honduras for the majority of his career.
Honduras.
Honduras and Honduras. He's actually signed to a Honduran team, or was signed to a Honduran team.
Real España.
No. He was signed to CD Victoria, and then he was loaned to España.
Okay.
And he literally he was loaned out every year. That's kind of crazy. He was a loan every season that he's played soccer. But he's a player that has limited experience. I view him. So it's the player is Derrickson Vuelto. He's a player that came into Portland too as a relatively touted talent, like somebody who Portland fans were pretty excited to get. He didn't perform admirably for them. He can play left wing, he can play center forward. He's kind of a hybrid player. But it's sorry, Kala's statement made me laugh. It's pretty good. But he's a Honduran player that has played for the Honduran national team. He's got that connection, obviously. I think my biggest concern is he hasn't played, this season really at all. And even his last couple of stints, around the world, he has not played much. So he has, I think, looking at it, we're talking, 11 total matches in the last 2 years. Not very much. And not all of those were starts, which is even kind of scary.
So they say he has a little bit of a built like a Romel Kyoto. Hopefully just the built and athleticism, not the head case or whatever. But
he had, just to be clear, I looked this up because somebody asked me this on the Surge Discord. They asked me, well, does the guy have any? What's the guy's record with yellows and reds? The guy has 0 cards to his name in his entire career.
Good.
Which are professional career.
Well, but like I said, I mean, it's obviously I know some of the fans get tired and fed up with the Honduran connection and all that good stuff. But I mean, players are gonna be players, and you're gonna find players wherever you go, man. And if they keep picking at Honduras, it's a team on the rise in the CONCACAF region. I think he has made 1 or 2 starts for or has been chosen 1 or 2 times by the national team in Honduras. Not too sure. You probably have to look that up, Sean. But I mean, so he's a young player, 21, 22 years old. Quick, fast, a lot of pace. Obviously, I think he's more of a future type player, from obviously everything that you're giving me as far as information, as far as him only playing a handful of games, maybe 2 handful of games the last couple of seasons. So
I was going to say that I expect this is more of an RGV type signing, a player that they intend to loan out to RGV to let him get some time and some minutes and some grooming down there.
Wouldn't be bad.
No, it wouldn't, and it makes sense. I mean, he's a player that's coming in on would come in on a free. They're not having to spend any extra money for him. He doesn't have a current contract. He's got no current team. So, to me, the player is going to be pretty amenable to whatever the hell you offer him at this point. I mean, he has no offers on the table, clearly. He's only 22 years old, so he's a young player. Like you said, he's a Kyoto type player that frankly you can build. You can help him develop, not build, but you can build him up and you can help him develop in RGV. And frankly, he's the type of player RGV could use, a true center forward, a true, guy that can play left wing, but also is truly a true center forward that can play that position. And he's played in a 4-3-3 with Honduras and otherwise. You asked me about Honduran national team. He debuted for the Honduran national team senior team on November 15th, 2019. He played in that match. Didn't have much of an effect. According to, well, that must have been. Oh, that's the whole squad. Okay, I was like, wow, that's absurd. And then he also had three starts with the Honduran U17s back in 2015. So he's had time on the pitch, so to speak, playing for the Honduran national teams, and that's great. But I think my thing is, that's great, and I'm glad to see he's gotten that time. But he's still clearly, having been signed initially or loaned initially into Portland too, he's a player that just has a lot of refining to go through. And the Dynamo have proven they can refine those players over time, but he's not a next season type of star, right? He's a player that we're probably looking 3-4 seasons before we really see him start to pour it on. He could surprise us. I mean, the Dynamo haven't signed him yet, but it's a rumor. If he does sign, he's a player that could ultimately surprise us, but my gut says he's probably being signed for RGV.
I mean, and obviously he was with Timbers too, so that's Portland's UCL team, and obviously RGV's in the USL. And if he can dominate that level of play while he's down there, if he signs with us and gets sent down there, then that's good for him, and then obviously he can play for a spot, in the first team next season or whenever that time comes, because I mean, it's going to be exciting to see these players that come in, especially like we said, the prior youth academy players like, Rios and Castillas and Hoffman. We know those guys are going to go to RGV and go play down there and get minutes and get their fitness game up there and all that good stuff. So, and if you can see them dominate level of play, then that's great, obviously. For RGV at the moment, because I don't think they've won anything match yet. And then, great for the Dynamo because those guys are getting minutes, they're getting game time, and they're getting experience and confidence on the pitch. So, it's never nothing wrong, for them to go sign a player, especially on a free. Then obviously a player who's already made it to his senior national team. And like I said, he's 22 years old. I mean, what do you lose in giving a player a shot like that, But
wanted to I was gonna say that's what I was gonna say. Wanted to throw out there the next player is Adia Lassiter.
This is
from
completely
Costa
different,
Rica.
though.
Huh?
This next player is completely different.
Because completely different. Yeah. This kid at 25 years old. This kid last year in the Primera División Clausura for 2019-2020. He had 18 appearances, which is I think the number of actual matches they had. He plays a combination of left winger. That's his preferred position, but he can play center forward and right winger. Basically Morrow, or Elise. Take your pick, either or. But 18 appearances, he had 8 goals and 9 assists, 1 red card, but that's 1 red card through 18 matches. That's not a terrible ratio there. And he doesn't have a history of cards, so I can accept a 1 card there. But what is I think most important here, he is a little bit more valuable. Transfer Market has him listed as about $303,000. Dollars value wise. Vuelto is about 110,000. But what's important is he has 6 starts for the Costa Rican senior national team, and he actually played two times for the U.S. men's national team under 23s under, you guessed it, Tab Ramos in 2015.
And that connection keeps coming up.
Hey,
but,
Tab, you keep bringing them old U.S. players that were youth players into your system, man. I ain't gonna argue at all if they coming in cheap. No problem. Bring in Ian Hoffman. Bring in Ariel Lassiter, and there's no stopping Tab at this point. It's just, hey, who do you want to bring in next? All right, we'll sign him. Let's find him.
Well, obviously, we're looking at the same information. His overall in all competitions, he had 21 goals and 14 assists in all competitions, which is great, because. Yep. That shows just a number of games that they're playing, especially in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a really good league. Let's not sell ourselves short here. I mean, you got everybody knows the powerhouses, Saprissa and Colo Colo.
And that includes the Apertura Finale. So he played in the final. In the home and a leg way. A home and a home. No, he didn't play in the home and leg, but he played minutes. Just he didn't start. But the 21 goals was across 48 total matches. So he has roughly, give or take, a goal every 2 matches, which is really not a terrible. It's not bad by any stretch of imagination for a striker to basically have a 50% goal to match ratio. It's not bad at all.
It's not bad at all. And then obviously the assist numbers as well. It shows that he's not a selfish player, to go along with that. But what I was gonna say before, you went on with the tab thing. The interesting thing about it is that, obviously the transfer market value has him at what, 330, 350. This guy just signed a new contract with the team that he's currently on. So obviously that market value is a little bit higher because that contract is a little longer. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of transfer fees behind this. Because and like I said, I'm not expecting them to pay something crazy, for this guy, but it is to show that, they're out there trying to, buy players that can provide help right now, because that's what we're looking for. And he was with the LA Galaxy, their USL team, prior to going to Costa Rica. And he
played for the Galaxy as well. He played like 1 or 2 matches for the Galaxy.
I think he only played like a handful of games or whatever.
Yeah.
He's also son of Roy Lessiter, who played with Tab Ramos in the U.S. national team. So that's where all that connection is coming from, and that's a good thing about having a coach with ties like that, because you get those little connections and you make calls and you see what people's interests are. And obviously it benefits us in this, if the rumor is true and he does end up coming here, it's one of those things where obviously his relationship with Tab is what's ultimately going to bring him to the Dynamo. It's going to be interesting because, like I said, he says he's a left winger, so that's going to be a great thing, so somebody on the left towards Mato, and then when Mato's out, you can put him in the center forward position as well. So he would be opposite, at least in the perfect scenario, if at least were to stay. So, and then obviously I guess you would have Quintero in the 10, so that would be a really potent force out there, a really strong foursome.
I was going to say, I was looking at his performance by competition. So he actually played 58 matches with USLC. So that's USL Championship with LA Galaxy 2. He played 25 in MLS, which is actually really an impressive number for a player his age. He only had 1 goal in those matches. But again, this is LA Galaxy, and that was when Zlatan was there. So it's a totally different team. He had 34 matches in Primera División Clausura. And had 11 goals and 11 assists during that time, which is a really good rate. In USL Championship, across those 58 matches, he had 30 goals and 5 assists, which that's a hell of a goal ratio, even in USL Championship.
So that means he's above RGV level.
Hey, let's put it this way: if he gets signed and got loaned to RGV, I guarantee you that those RGV down in the valley guys would be doing backflips, like they would be in love.
Yeah.
This guy would be the second coming of Jesus. I mean, no joke. Like, it would be crazy. There would be candles lit in his honor. Not kidding. I was just looking because I was kind of curious, and he played in the USL Championship playoffs as well, 4 matches there. And then I mentioned the Apertura Finale. He played the 2 matches there. Played 4 matches in the Apertura playoff, and then he played 4 matches in the Clausura playoff. So in each of those situations, he has played. The team that he has played for has made their playoff or made their end of the season tournament in such a way that they made it a pretty deep way in. And he played in those matches. It wasn't like he was just there on the bench, but he actually played in those matches. And to me, that's just a player that has tremendous upside. And you have the possibility. I don't know what they're talking about money wise, but you have the possibility to bring him in at a pretty small fraction of what what you'd pay normally for a player of this type of caliber if they were in a different situation. And again, he's a player that fits. He obviously knows Tab. Tab knows him. I guarantee you, they want to get it done. And if they can, again, that's another feather in Tab's hat that. Tab is having a direct influence on player personnel that's being not only brought in, but that is being built up within the system. And again, it'd be nice to have a player also with the flexibility and utility that can play any side of the pitch and across an entire front line.
I'm just looking at their roster. There's a couple of old MLS players on here that Alvaro Saborio, who used to play with Real Salt Lake. Brian Rees, who obviously everybody knows from Costa Rica,
Ruiz, the fish,
and then our old buddy Alex Lopez.
Oh shit!
Honduran.
Really?
Yeah, he's on there. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
damn.
there.
Wow, didn't know that.
Yeah, he's there. He's their number 10 over there.
So apparently they're MLS. They're MLS 2.0 over there.
Yeah, MLS 2.0 got them to the
MLSB. MLSAB.
Guess who else? Adolfo Machado is over there as well.
Really? Wow. That dude's still playing? Damn.
So I mean, maybe there's a lot of connections here. Maybe he's asked these guys, hey, what is it like to go play in Houston? It's hot as hell, but
Machado enjoyed the hell out of his time here. I'm gonna throw that out there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he did. I mean, he was just a little over the age limit. It's kind of crazy. Machado was 31, 32, 33.
I feel like Machado was over the age limit, and then we go and sign a 36-year-old at that point. Like, yeah, over the age limit, right? They got dude had 5 years on him, and we were like, oh yeah, he's over the hill. What?
Yeah, man.
No, over the hill.
I enjoyed Machado when he was here, man. He's actually one of those players who was, I think could have been one of those vocal players, but obviously things didn't work out. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm sure that he's asked about the Dynamo. He has those connections there on his team currently with Lopez and Machado on there. And I don't think either one of those players have anything negative to say about the Dynamo, really, because I mean, they did what they were able to do during that time period here. Alex Lopez, maybe he was really young when he came here and under Kinnear, and obviously he wasn't really the type of player to play in Kinnear's system, so he kind of got lost in the shuffle. Unfortunately, I think he would have done a lot better if he would have been under Wilmer and then obviously under Tab. But it is what it is.
I want to say Alajuelense. I can say that word. They played him primarily as a left midfielder. So, left winger, left midfielder. Again, he can play center forward. He's done that before, and he can play right winger, right midfield as well. So, again, a versatile player, a player that knows Tab's desired play style, tactical approach, etc. A player that can slot in and very well could be a very good signing. I'm not going to say he would be the next generation, if you will, or whatever, the next level of signing, because he would be replacing a somebody there at that position. And currently I guess technically Memo is starting over there, and that wouldn't push Memo out. I think that would be I think that's the Elise replacement right there. I think that's what the intent is. And again, a much cheaper player, you're not spending nearly as much, so you bring him in cheaper. That gives you room to buy another player of that caliber somewhere else, to pair with him somewhere, or even, I don't know, a possible true number 10 besides Darwin Quintero. I don't know, something. But all in all, I think it's a good rumor. It's nice to see rumors. It's surprising to see so many early, so early in the off season. I'm air quoting, in the window. But we've needed it for sure. Go ahead.
I have a question for you since the transfer window opens up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are the odds of the Dynamo doing something in the first week of the transfer window?
First week? Ooh.
Yeah.
25%.
25%.
I think the window is.
I think until October 5th. I think it is.
Yeah, it's a pretty extended window.
Or am I thinking of the European window?
I think it is sometime in like late September, early October, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, this is a little bit of a uncharted territory with Dynamo fans. The fact that we
uncharted territory across global soccer. Let's be real, just in general. Yeah. But I know what you're saying. But
yeah. So I mean, the fact that there's rumors with the club going after players, it's a great thing to see and to hear, obviously. And whether we do sign these guys or not, or we sign some other guys from other positions and from other clubs, or the thing that I think myself and Sean are hoping for, and obviously Dynamo fans across here and all these other platforms, is that we see improvement on the team, and that we see unity as a club. That obviously we know that Tab has a vision and that there's a direction that they're leaning towards, but to thing to have a plan in place, but it's another thing to execute that plan and make it happen. And I think we have the right people in place to make that happen, you know, and you know, hopefully there's a little bit more investment on the team on the pitch as far as funds goes to bring in players. But I guess we'll see, man. We'll see. It's one of those things where this season is it's like no other. We're gonna have what, a 18 to 20 game season, I think. I don't remember what it said. And our first match is against our bitter rivals, FC Frisco, the 21st, I believe.
Yeah, the 21st. So that'll be a little over a week away. 11 days. My thought was, tune in next week. We'll talk about FC Dallas versus Houston here in Houston, and then turn right around on the 25th. If I'm not mistaken, we played 25th up there in FCD. So 2 great matches back to back will be fun, but no fans. So don't bother going to the stadium because you're gonna be kicked right off the property entirely.
I have a question for you, Sean. Maybe you can help me answer this, or maybe somebody out there can help answer this to me. No, we had no fans on for the Dynamo game, but what about media members or the guys with the passes?
Technically, media members are allowed under the overhanging how that works or whatever. You probably should reach out to Zach and ask him because I'm sure he'd love the coverage, and I know that they because in the EPL they've got it set up for media to be out there, so you just got to follow protocols, man.
Get my own little section.
Yeah, just know you can't cheer for the team, so you better keep it restrained. You'd be the only one out there going.
That's fine. But just
you'd be like, dale, 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 Dynamo, dale, 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 Dynamo. It'd be great.
Like, hey, you at section 116, pipe down.
That's right, exactly. No, seriously though, it's exciting to know that the Dynamo will be back in town very, very soon to play, or will be playing back in town very soon. Sad that we won't be able to be there to cheer them on and support them, but I do know that Hustletown are working on having something prepared to at least remind the players that we're behind you, we're with you. Even in this situation, we're still there in spirit, and can't ask for more than that. With that, though, guys, all of you that are watching, and again, we hugely appreciate you watching, but do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, and tell your peoples that we're amazing, and tell them to subscribe as well, so we can get some more stuff going on. Yeah, I was doing that thing. As we can get some more subscribers. We're trying to get to 100. We got quite a ways to go, but you guys have helped us get quite a ways already. But if we can get to 100 subscribers, we can get a custom YouTube URL, and trust me, we are angling for that majorly because it will help us tremendously. But once again, Mark's like, I'm out, y'all. Peace. We are going to go ahead and close the show here. We're again trying to keep these a little shorter for now, but we will get back to the full shows once we kind of get back into more of a regular swing and things. Mark, we're not done yet. We're close. But guys, thank you for tuning in. Mark, do you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to share?
No, guys, just piggybacking off what Sean said, please help us get there to that 100 subscriber mark. We're trying to get to that personal URL. Subscribe, click like, do all the things that you got to do, And if anything, man, y'all want to talk Dynamo, you can holler at us on Twitter, at Sean Ringrose, and myself at Segovia, or even at Gen Orange Radio. We're usually there. We're fairly, we're fairly active on there, I think I would like to say. But other than that, man, peace.
Guys, thank you so much.